Growing Older, Growing Stronger, Inspirational Stories After 60. Hello, my friends. Have you ever looked in the mirror and asked yourself, I have gone through a lifetime, but why do I sometimes feel so small? Perhaps you have experienced turbulent days, times when your health is not as good as before, moments when friends gradually leave, or children become busier and more distant. Old age, for many people, is a slow journey, a time when we can rest after years of dedication. But it is also at this stage that many people feel that they are gradually weakening, no longer being themselves, no longer finding a reason to continue each day with the same bright spirit as before. However, do you believe that there are people who, even though they are 70, 80, or even 90 years old, still make young people take their hats off in admiration? They are not superheroes, there are no miracles. They are people like us, who have faced illness, lost loved ones, lived in loneliness, and feared every night. But they still stood up and continued to live, not because they had to, but because they chose not to let old age become a reason to stop hoping, stop loving life, and stop trying. Let me tell you a story. In the state of Texas, there is a woman named Margaret, who is 84 years old this year. She used to be an elementary school teacher, retired for more than 20 years. Her husband died 10 years ago from cancer, and her children all live in other states. She used to live quietly, every day was the same, reading the newspaper in the morning, cooking at noon, watching TV in the afternoon, and going to bed at night. It went on like that, month after month, year after year. Until one day, she received a letter inviting her to join a dance class for seniors in the local community. She did not intend to go, thinking to herself, I am old, my back hurts, who would want to dance with me? But somehow, that day she picked up the letter, got dressed, and walked to that class. You know, that day changed the rest of her life. Margaret started learning slow waltzes, then cha-cha, then tango. She went to class 3 times a week, and gradually her back pain subsided, and her spirit brightened. Not only that, she also made friends with a group of dancers her age, calling each other the Brilliant Autumn Leaves. Now, at the age of 84, Margaret can dance on stage at city events, and in the eyes of her children and grandchildren, she is not only the person she loves, but also living proof that old age does not mean the end of life energy, but just a turning point for us to continue writing the chapters of life in a different way. Why do I tell you Margaret's story? Because I believe that each of us has a part like her. You may have thought, I don't have enough energy to do anything new anymore. You may have said to yourself, at this age, why change? But the truth is, life doesn't require us to become extraordinary. It only expects us not to lose the spark inside us. And that spark, no matter how small, can still light up a long day if we know how to preserve and rekindle it at the right time. Did you know that, according to scientists at Harvard University, a sense of purpose in life is an important factor in prolonging life and improving the quality of life in older people? In a long-term study, older people with clear life goals were less likely to suffer from heart disease, depression, and cognitive decline than those who lived quietly and without direction. That means, when we feel that we still have something to do, someone to love, a reason to wake up every morning, our body will naturally become stronger, and our mind will become clearer. I remember once, an old friend of mine named Paul, who is 76 years old, told me, I used to think that I was getting weaker because of my age, but it turned out that it was because I stopped doing the things that made me feel strong. That sentence made me think a lot. Because it is true that there are things that we used to be very good at, used to love passionately, but because of a busy life, because of health problems, because of emotional wounds, we have forgotten them. But if one day, you try to sit down with yourself and ask, what used to make me happy? What did I live my life for? You might find back the source of strength that you thought you had lost. In fact, many seniors in the United States are living very positively, not because they are richer or healthier, but because they consciously choose a way of life that makes them valuable. For example, Mr. Ray, 81 years old in California, after retiring, he volunteered in a nursing home. He not only helps people older than him eat and read, but also organizes small live music sessions in the communal garden. Every week, he plays the harmonica, the instrument he loved when he was young. He doesn't need to be a good musician, doesn't need the audience to applaud loudly, but he feels that he is living a meaningful life. He once said, "I can't stop time, but I can decide how I live each day." Sometimes, old age is like a quiet autumn. But if we know how to blow into it a little wind, a little sunshine, a little music and a smile, that autumn will be as bright as a painting. And it doesn't require a lot of money or effort, but something simpler, willingness. You may be thinking, I want to do that too, but where do I start? The answer is not far away. It starts with what you are doing right now, sitting here, listening, opening your heart to receive something new. Because every small step today, if taken in the right direction, can lead us to a more fulfilling life tomorrow. Some people choose to learn a new skill like cooking, painting, yoga. Some people clean up a corner of the garden, take care of a few small potted plants. Those seemingly small things are the foundation for nurturing the spirit and the feeling of I am still useful. And when you start doing something for yourself, not to prove anything to anyone, not to keep up with anyone, but just because you want to live a more meaningful life, you will see a miracle. The feeling of weakness will gradually disappear. It won't disappear immediately, but it will fade as you live each day to the fullest. We have just taken the first steps in our journey to regain our own strength. There are many things worth talking about, feeling, and sharing on the road ahead. And like any other precious journey, it is not rushed. We will continue together, slowly but steadily, to discover deeper things in the next part. When we are young, we often think that strength comes from muscles, from agility, from the ability to do many things in a day. But as we get older, the definition of strength also changes. It is no longer about how many miles we run, how many things we do, but about having the courage to start over, to forgive ourselves, to gently accept the unchangeable, and still smile and live on. There is a woman named Helen in Oregon that I once read about in a local newspaper. She is 78 years old, living alone in a small house. 10 years ago, she had an accident that severely damaged her knee, forcing her to use a wheelchair for almost a year. During that time, she lost most of her faith in life. Every day, she just sat silently, looking out the window, thinking about all the things she had done, lost, and now no longer had. Then one day, her niece sent her a set of paintbrushes and some watercolors. "I thought you would like to paint, it was that simple." At first, she laughed it off, thinking it was childish. But then one rainy morning, she took out her paintbrushes and paper and began to paint a very strange picture. A tree without leaves, only bare branches. She did not expect to feel so relieved when she finished that picture. So every day, she painted a little bit, not in a class, not according to any technique. Just painting according to her feelings. Her wheelchair became her companion in the small drawing corner. After a few months, her grandchildren posted the drawings on social media, and to her surprise, hundreds of people loved them. Many said her paintings expressed feelings they couldn't express. Now, Helen doesn't just paint for herself, she hosts online chats with other seniors across the country, sharing how art can help heal the soul. You see, sometimes strength doesn't have to be loud. It can start with a box of paint, a diary entry, a greeting. Every time we do something for ourselves, not because someone is forcing us, but because our hearts are calling us, that's the moment we find our inner strength again. I once read a scientific report from the American Institute on Aging that said, people who maintain social connections and engage in creative activities, whether it's crafts, writing, or art, tend to have higher cognitive scores and are less likely to suffer from memory loss. In other words, keeping your mind active, curious, inspired is a very effective tonic for old age. Let me tell you another story, this time about Mr. Joseph, 85 years old, living in New York. After retiring, he spent nearly 3 years living in a state of emptiness. He used to be a mechanical engineer, used to working with machines, with a clear schedule. When everything stopped, he felt like his identity was being stripped away. Until one day, he happened to come across a notebook recording the wooden toy models he had made for his son. The notebook was covered in dust, but inside was a treasure trove of memories, love, and skills that he had. He started to remake a small train model just to give to his newborn grandson. But then, he continued to make other models. Neighbors and friends came to visit. Everyone was delighted. Some even ordered custom models. So he opened a small workshop in the garage. Every week, he made a few wooden models, no competition, no pressure. Simply to see that his hands were still skillful, his eyes were still bright, and his heart was still beating when creating something useful. Mr. Joseph did not seek to become a businessman or an artisan. He only found joy when he was able to do what he loved. And I believe that is an immeasurable strength. Have you noticed? Many times in life, we underestimate such small things. A morning walk, a cup of tea brewed correctly, an unexpected phone call, a half-read book, a newly sprouted potted plant. But it is these small things that create the foundation for lasting strength, the kind of strength that is not easily seen with the eyes, but is clearly felt with satisfaction. Sometimes, people tell us, when you are old, you should rest. But no one teaches us that resting does not mean stopping living. It means living in a different way. Slower, gentler, but still full of meaning and depth. Like Mrs. Susan in Colorado, who worked as a nurse for more than 30 years. After retiring, she thought she would withdraw from social life. But one day, when she went to the hospital to visit an old friend, she saw some elderly patients who had no relatives to take care of them. They were sad, quiet, many of them just lying there staring at the ceiling all day. She volunteered once a week to talk to them. Gradually, she discovered that she could still share simple medical knowledge, encourage them, and even help coordinate home care groups. Now, Susan has become a guide for many other elderly men and women in their journey to find medical and healthcare services. Who would have thought that after retirement, she would find a new career, lighter, but no less valuable than the years in the hospital? You see, we don't need to climb mountains, don't need to run marathons, to prove that we are still strong. Every meaningful action, every moment lived with purpose, is a manifestation of an unyielding heart. If you're feeling too quiet, too stagnant, it's probably not because you're weak, it's just because there's no wind blowing across that lake. Try opening up a little. Give yourself permission to try something old. Give yourself permission to write a letter to an old friend. Give yourself permission to go to a relaxation class or a community meeting. It doesn't have to be anything big. Just start. And sometimes, that one small step can lead to a whole new life. Because you are alive, you can still make an impact. Whether that impact is just making someone smile or feeling a little lighter when you go to bed tonight, that is enough to be called strong. You have come a long way, and your journey is not over. There are still wonderful things waiting for you ahead. Emotions you have not experienced. Friends you have not met. Joys that have not yet blossomed. And the most special thing I want to keep for the end is a story that I believe will touch your heart deeply because it comes from a very close place, the heart of old people like us, when we learn to love ourselves again. There is a story that I have kept in my heart for many years, not only because it is touching but because it really made me look back at my life differently. It is about Mr. Harold, a white man in his 90s, living in a small town in the state of Vermont. He lost his beloved wife of more than 60 years one autumn many years ago. During the first year after her death, he hardly left the house. His children and grandchildren worried, neighbors occasionally visited, but he remained silent, in a deep sadness as if a part of his body had been taken away. Then one spring morning, when the snow began to melt, people saw him sitting on a wooden chair on the porch, holding a small notebook and writing something. At first, everyone thought he was just jotting down a few lines in his diary, but later, he himself said that he was writing a letter to his 10-year-old self. Every day, he wrote a small letter, sent to the little Harold of 1942. He recounted what he had experienced, what he had learned, his failures, his joys, and even what he wished he had done differently. At first, writing letters was just a way for him to cope with the loss. But gradually, he discovered something strange, that he had never really stopped to love himself. All his life, he had worked, cared for his family, followed his responsibilities, his obligations, but he had never asked, "Harold, are you okay?" Writing letters like this helped him forgive himself, feel lighter, and begin to enjoy the remaining days as a gift, instead of a silent weight. Have any of us ever written to ourselves? Maybe it was a letter, a note, or just a few lines in an old diary. But it was a powerful form of healing. Because sometimes, the person who needed to hear the most comforting words was us. Researchers at the University of Wisconsin once conducted a small experiment, asking older people to write encouraging letters to their younger selves. The results showed that more than 80% of participants felt lightened, energized, and reconnected with the positive inside of themselves. Connecting with ourselves, genuinely, helps us move forward without feeling held back by the past. I have a friend named Linda, 73, who lives in Washington State. She used to work in the insurance industry, then retired at 65. She was afraid of aging, of being forgotten, of becoming useless. But then she decided to take up yoga. Not the kind of yoga that you see online, but therapeutic yoga, gentle, focused on breathing and concentration. She told me that one time while doing a slow breathing exercise, she burst into tears. Not because of the pain, but because, for the first time in years, she felt that her body was still there, still listening. It was just waiting for me to come back. Dear friend, your body, your mind, your heart, they did not betray you. They are only quieter when we do not pay attention. But if you just spend a little time every day to listen to an old song, a light exercise, a book, an early morning breeze, you will see, inside you is still a whole garden waiting for the blooming season. Maybe we no longer dance like when we were young. That's okay. But maybe we will dance in a different way, gently, silently, in every peaceful heartbeat when we see that life is still very beautiful even though we are near the end of the road. One of the images I like very much is the image of an old man and woman sitting on a stone bench, holding hands, saying nothing, just watching the children play. Maybe outsiders think it is just an afternoon passing by. But for them, it is happiness. Because after so many years, they have learned that there is no need to do anything big to prove that they are still valuable. Just being present, still being moved, still smiling, is enough. Dear friend, I know that sometimes you feel small in this modern world. Social media is noisy, technology runs too fast, everyone seems to be busy all day. But please don't let that make you think that old age is a time of fading away. On the contrary, I believe that this is the time to return to ourselves deeper, quieter, and more beautiful than ever. You have the right to start over at any time. Whether it is writing poetry, painting, planting trees, learning to play an instrument, cooking, or simply waking up early to walk every morning and say hello to a stranger. Every day is an opportunity. Every breath is a new beginning. And you are never too old to live a meaningful life. If you are listening to me until now, it means that your heart is still open. And I want you to know you are not alone. There are many people out there like me, like you, who are still walking every day, gently but firmly, on their own journey. Let gratitude guide you. Let the light in your heart guide you. And if you feel tired at times, stop for a moment, sit down, take a deep breath, and remind yourself, I am not weak. I am just strong in my own old age. If you have a personal story, about a time when you stood up after falling down, about a small joy you found after many days of silence, please share it with us in the comments section. Those stories, I believe, will inspire many others. And if you find this video touching, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Not for me to be famous, but for us, those who have gone through many seasons, to have more space to tell stories, listen, and support each other. Old age does not make you weak. Old age only makes you deeper, more courageous, and more appreciative of every moment. And so, you have never been, and will never be, an extra person in this beautiful picture of life. Wishing you a happy, healthy, peaceful, and happy life at every age. Thank you for staying until the end. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.